Welcome back to our channel, Zero to English, the podcast dedicated to helping you achieve fluency one practical conversation at a time. We break down real-world English so you can speak confidently in any situation. If you love practical lessons like this, please remember to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for more videos. Welcome back, everyone, to the English Learning Masterclass. I'm Perry.
And I'm Alan. Today we're diving into an advanced area of fluency, humor. We're learning English by understanding jokes, irony, and sarcasm.
Humor relies on subtle wordplay and cultural understanding, making it the ultimate test of fluency. If you can understand the joke, you are thinking in English.
Our goal is to equip you to recognize the common structures of English wit and know how to respond appropriately.
Let's listen to a casual conversation at a networking event where we use lighthearted language and a bit of self-deprecation.
Ready, Perry?
Alan, that presentation you gave on the quarterly budget was impressively detailed. I think you actually managed to make financial forecasting sound fascinating.
Thank you. I was worried that half the room was mulling over whether to ask for a coffee break. It was a bit dense, I admit.
I hear you. The level of detail was non-negotiable for the client. I felt like my brain was working on overdrive, just keeping pace.
That reminds me of a joke I heard yesterday. Did you hear the one about the calendar?
No, I don't think so.
It needed a break after all its dates were up.
That's terrible. Absolutely groan-worthy. A classic, obvious pun.
Exactly. It lands better when people are already tired. I find a little bit of silly humor helps people switch off and lighten the mood.
I agree. It helps break the ice. Though I have to admit, I sometimes struggle with colleagues' sarcasm. It's hard to tell if they are serious or joking when they say something like, "That's a brilliant idea," after a clear failure.
That is the ultimate test of cultural fluency. Sarcasm is tough. It's all in the intonation and the context. You have to be prepared to take that on board as part of advanced communication.
I suppose so. Well, I'm glad we had this moment of levity. It certainly makes the rest of the workday easier to face.
That exchange demonstrated several key uses of humor: self-deprecating wit, polite exaggeration, and the simple pun.
Let's analyze the linguistic structure of the joke, the pun about the calendar.
The pun was, the calendar needed a break after all its dates were up. This relies on the dual meaning of dates, the chronological days, and dates, romantic or social appointments that conclude.
Puns rely on homophones or homographs, words that sound or are spelled the same but have different meanings. Puns teach vocabulary depth because you must know both meanings.
My response used self-deprecating humor. I was worried that half the room was mulling over their lunch order, which acknowledges the dry nature of the topic and shows humility. This is highly valued socially.
We also use the phrase groan-worthy. This is the perfect response to a bad pun. It acknowledges the humor was intended but was perhaps too silly or obvious.
Now, let's address sarcasm. Sarcasm is when you say the opposite of what you mean. The key differentiator is the intonation. The voice usually goes slightly higher or is delivered in a flat, monotone way, signaling the literal meaning is false.
When a colleague says, "That's a brilliant idea," after something fails, the context and the intonation signal the true meaning, "That was a terrible idea." Sarcasm requires quick cultural and contextual alignment.
Finally, we used 3 phrases to describe the social function of humor: lighten the mood, break the ice, and helping people switch off. These are essential collocations for discussing social atmosphere.
To fully appreciate and utilize English humor, we need specific vocabulary for different types of wit.
Let's look at key terms for classifying humor. Puns, jokes relying on the double meaning of a word. Witty banter, quick, clever, and often slightly competitive exchanges of jokes or teasing. Irony, when the actual result is the opposite of the expected result. For example, a traffic cop getting a speeding ticket. Self-deprecation, making light of your own flaws or misfortunes, a high-status skill.
Now, phrasal verbs used when laughing or telling jokes. Crack up, to burst into spontaneous laughter. E.g., The movie made me crack up. Keep a straight face. To try not to laugh. A key skill for sarcastic delivery. Lighten up. To become less serious. E.g., oh, come on, lighten up. It was just a joke. Get the joke. To understand the humor or the punchline.
Also remember hyperbole, exaggeration. Much of English comedy uses extreme exaggeration to make a point funny. If you had a terrible day, you might say, "The meeting was so long, I think I aged 10 years." You don't mean it literally, but the exaggeration conveys the pain in a humorous way.
We also use specific collocations to describe good humor. Instead of just saying a joke is funny, you can say, a joke is side-splitting, very funny. A situation is hilarious, causes uncontrollable laughter. A remark is sharp-witted, clever and quickly delivered. Humor is the most culturally sensitive element of English. The pragmatics dictate when and how we can joke, and mastering this is crucial for social success.
The biggest barrier isn't the vocabulary, it's the cultural context. For instance, in many English-speaking cultures, humor often relies on understatement, saying less than you mean, or extreme exaggeration, which is saying more than you mean.
Let's focus on the unwritten rules, starting with the teasing etiquette. Pragmatic Rule 1, teasing is affection, not attack. Among colleagues or friends, light teasing is a primary form of bonding. It's used to lower social barriers.
For example, if I notice you are always drinking coffee, I might tease you gently by saying, "I assume your blood type is officially O negative and espresso now." This is a mild, affectionate challenge.
The correct response is not denial, but counter-humor or self-deprecation. Only on Mondays, Alan. By Friday, it's double espresso and panic. This shows you got the joke and can participate in the banter. Failing to respond with humor can signal that you were offended.
Pragmatic Rule 2, the softening effect of understatement. When something goes very badly, English speakers often use understatement, a type of irony, to make the bad news easier to bear.
If the server crashed and wiped out 3 hours of work, you don't say, "This is an absolute disaster." Instead, you use an understatement like, "Well, that's just a bit inconvenient, isn't it?" Or, "That didn't go precisely according to plan." The quiet, mild phrasing contrasts with the serious situation, creating subtle, dark humor.
Pragmatic Rule 3, mastering the delivery of sarcasm. As we discussed, sarcasm is verbal irony. The key is the intonation, which often involves a high pitch or a slow, deliberate delivery. To help the learner, always remember that sarcasm relies on the shared, obvious reality.
If a meeting runs 3 hours over the scheduled time, you say, "I'm so glad we got out of that meeting right on time." The absurdity, combined with the context of the long meeting, makes the joke clear. If the person looks confused, you can follow up with a clarifying comment like, "I was being sarcastic, of course."
Pragmatic Rule 4, humor as a boundary setter. Humor is an excellent tool to set a polite boundary without sounding aggressive. For example, if a colleague asks you to take on yet another task when you are already overworked, you don't say, "No, I'm too busy."
Instead, you use light exaggeration. "Are you trying to make me age 10 years before lunch? I can handle that one thing, but if I do, I'll have to start leaving sticky notes for my future self." This uses hyperbole to communicate your lack of capacity gently.
Pragmatic Rule 5, knowing when to stop. The primary rule of social conversation is read the room. If a joke falls flat or someone looks uncomfortable, apologize briefly and pivot immediately back to the serious topic. Don't try to explain the joke, as that just makes the situation more awkward.
Time for dedicated practice. We'll give you scenarios, and you must use the specific humor structures we taught in the last section.
Scenario 1. Responding to a teasing challenge. A colleague sees you struggling with a complicated piece of software and says, "Looks like that new program is treating you well." You look calm and entirely in control. Note the high, dry, sarcastic tone. Pause for listener response. How do you respond with counter-humor and self-deprecation?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just pretending to know what I'm doing until the program decides to crack up on me. I should be getting a bonus for keeping a straight face right now. This responds to the sarcasm with more sarcasm.
Scenario 2. Using hyperbole, exaggeration, to describe effort. You were talking about a project where you worked extremely hard, well past midnight to hit a deadline. Pause for listener response. Describe the effort using extreme exaggeration in the phrasal verb mull over.
We were working so late, I started mulling over whether I actually lived at the office now. I think I aged 10 years during the final hour, honestly. This uses extreme exaggeration and the phrasal verb.
Scenario 3. Using understatement for a major mistake. You spilled coffee all over the main project proposal minutes before the client meeting. Pause for listener response. Use the technique of understatement to describe the disaster.
The proposal had a minor liquid interface issue just now. I'd say that's slightly inconvenient, wouldn't you? The quiet, controlled tone communicates the true severity of the mistake.
Scenario 4. Structuring a simple pun. Create a pun related to the word time that uses the double meaning of a word related to speed. Pause for listener response. Construct a sentence with a pun and an adjective for humor.
The best response. I tried to make a pun about speed, but it was just too fast for me to get down. I know, that's incredibly groan-worthy. The pun is on fast, meaning quick, and fast, meaning difficult to hold on to.
Scenario 5. Setting a boundary with humor. Your manager asks you to attend a meeting at 7 a.m. on Monday, but you are a notoriously slow starter in the morning. Pause for listener response. Use light sarcasm or hyperbole to set a boundary about your capacity, perhaps using the term morning person.
A 7 a.m. meeting? I'm not much of a morning person. Are you trying to see if my brain still functions at that hour? I'll be there, but I might need to crack up a joke just to wake up the room.
This practice demonstrates that humor is a toolkit. You must recognize the tool you need, pun, sarcasm, or hyperbole, and deploy it effectively.
We have uncovered the full spectrum of English humor, from the linguistic tricks of the pun to the essential cultural rules of conversation.
The final goal is not just recognition, but integration. We need strategies to make humor a natural part of your English usage.
Strategy 1. The principle of the 3 S's. When encountering humor, analyze it using these 3 steps. Structure. Is it a pun, an idiom, or a setup punchline joke? Sense. What is the literal meaning? Subtext. What is the cultural or sarcastic meaning? Is the person saying the opposite of what they mean?
Strategy 2. The joke journal and delivery practice. As we mentioned, keeping a joke journal is crucial, but now focus on delivery. Select 2 jokes, 1 pun and 1 self-deprecating joke, and practice delivering them in front of a mirror. Pay attention to your intonation and your timing. This builds the physical confidence needed to use humor socially.
Strategy 3. The media dive. Immerse yourself in media known for its wit, such as British sitcoms, American stand-up comedy, or light-hearted podcasts. Consciously isolate 3 new phrases each week that rely on exaggeration or understatement.
For example, from media you might learn the sarcastic expression, "Oh, that's just perfect," meaning that's terrible, or the understatement, "It could have been worse," meaning it was still very bad.
Remember, humor is a risk. You risk being misunderstood, and you risk the joke falling flat. But the reward, genuine social connection and advanced fluency, is worth the risk.
Start small. Master the pun, then move to self-deprecation, and eventually, if you feel comfortable, use gentle, polite sarcasm.
Mastering English humor means you have gained true fluency. It means you are engaging with the culture on its highest, most subtle level.
Thank you for joining us for this masterclass.
Keep practicing your sharp wit.
Goodbye for now.